Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Madcapper, and of course this is another video on Raid Shadow Legends, and we are back. It is time for another I built them so you don't have to. We're going to build out one of my favorite champions that I never had on my account, but this account killer is an absolute support beast for any of you trying to progress in this game. My girlfriend used her on her account a ton, and finally I got this champion on this account to do this video for you. So without further ado, here it is, SKEURAMIS. Effortless superiority. Attacks all enemies. Decreases the duration of all enemy buffs by 1 turn. Also has a 60 bookable to 75% chance of placing a 50% decreased attack debuff for 2 turns. Fills this champion's turn meter by 10% for each buff that has its duration decreased. Hold the Front. Has a 75 bookable to 100% chance of placing a provoke debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. Places a counterattack and a 15% continuous heal buff on this champion for 2 turns. Outpace. Attacks 1 enemy. Has an 80% bookable to 90% chance of sealing 15% of the target's turn meter. Has a 20% bookable to 30% chance of placing a stun debuff for 1 turn if the target's turn meter is fully depleted by this skill. All right, there is our SKEURAMIS. How do we have him built? Let's take a look. And I have him built very kind of endgame in order to use him in one area. Though I will show you in other areas, and we'll talk about how he is so good for progression for the early to mid-game player. But then I will show you where I think into the end game this guy might be being slept on and might have an opportunity to make your team that much better. So let's take a look at him. SKEURAMIS right here. What does his kit look like? Of course, he has this 25% HP aura in all battles, which is generally useful, especially in some of that endgame content where you need that better survivability. There he is for you in all his glory. We saw he's got a provoke with a counterattack and a continuous heal. This makes him perfect for where? Yeah, Hydra. Not only does he have a provoke on a 3-turn cooldown, but he also has a counterattack and a continuous heal that are self-buffs to allow him to be the mischief target. So we've built him out for that, as you'll see in a second. This decreased attack is, of course, at 75%, which is kind of annoying, but he also has a turn meter boost, which is going to allow him to cycle through to get back to that taunt quicker, that provoke quicker, to allow him to lock out the head of decay. And of course, you use the mastery as we did, I'll show you in a second, to boost those stats. Now, this is the only one that's kind of weak to me. It can be situationally good. He does have a 90% chance of stealing 15% of the target's turn meter and a 20% chance of placing a stun debuff for 1 turn if the target turn meter is fully depleted. So my problem with this is they booked 30% chance. I know it's on an A1, but a booked 30% chance if you deplete turn meter is ridiculous. Let's take that away. Let's just say he has an 80% chance, booked to 90% chance of stealing the target's turn meter, and a 30%, or just make it 100% chance of stealing that turn meter, or make it a 30% chance of landing the stun if the turn meter is not stolen. For example, there's a 3%, or it's on some champion that you can't steal turn meter, or those sort of things. Let's do something a little bit different, because I think the fact that it's a 30% on top of the fact that it's a low chance of actually stealing the turn meter to depletion, right? All that champion has to have is 20% turn meter, and this guy's only going to be able to steal 15% of it, so it's not going to be able to fully deplete the turn meter, and therefore this encounter, this low 30% chance, will never have a chance of happening. But overall, a great kit for this champion. Let me show you his artifacts. We have him built out very, very fast, and I'll show you why. We're going to take him into the Hydra. So I have him at HP that is a lot lower than I'd like it to be, but because we were looking for that 300 speed in order to get those turns cycling against the head of decay. but we've got a 66, 138 HP, his attack at 1771, 3157 defense, speed at 300, 453 resistance, 349 accuracy, ignore defense 10% because that's what I have in Hydra battles. So that is how we have him. As for masteries, now, if you are not using them for the Hydra, or if you are using them in lower levels, hard or normal of Hydra, then you will probably do this to the War Master proc. But because I need that extra resistance to be able to use him as the Head of Mischief target, I did go down resistance of 50. This is one of the hardest rotations because of two reasons. Number one, you've got a very high probability accuracy on the Head of Mischief on this rotation, and on top of that you have the Head of Suffering in the starting rotation, which adds 50 resistance to all enemies. So then means you have to boost that accuracy up even higher. So just keep those in mind if you're building out your Hydra team. You're wondering why you're not landing stuns or not landing anything. Well, you're not landing stuns because you're in Hydra, but not landing other debuffs, or your buffs are being stolen. That could be the reason why. So keep that in mind. That Head of Suffering, when it's alive, is a plus 50 resistance. Once it dies, that resistance goes away. So that is him there. We'll take him to other areas, but I'm going to take him to the Hydra first, just to get a good cycle and a good flow and understanding of where I'm talking about and how I'm talking about using this guy. And then I'll probably lower his stats a little bit, and we'll take him in some other areas, and I'll show you where he can be very useful for the early to mid game. So next, let's go to the Hydra. All right, so here's a pretty well-rounded team that we're going to be using against Hydra Brutal. Now, I'm not going to run the full key. I have not tuned this team. I've just kind of built a all-epic team around the ability for SKEURAMIS. Now, SKEURAMIS works best when you have an alternate method of provoke as well, just for safety, kind of a safety net. In this case, we do have Husk. So let's get this team started. I've also brought in, you see, I don't have any Veil on this team, and even though it's not on the starting, we know the Head of Torment's going to show up eventually. So I have brought in Inquisitor Shamael. So as you can see here, immediately he's going to put that on, and now he's got more buffs than everyone else, and that's where we want him. Awful. I got to tell you, sidebar, I've been playing this a lot, and first hit, I swear to God, has double chances to resist or to weak hit. Both of those scenarios. The two force affinity in the middle, I would say probably 7 out of 10 times I weak hit on both. Not just one, but both. It's crazy. But enough about my whining and complaining. Let's get moving here. We're just going to keep going. So as you can see, we have that taunt available. We're going to be able to cycle through all these different abilities. Boom, there you go. Plus, it's a weak hit, so it's a double win there. We're going to, of course, want to get rid of the Head of Decay. But here's the second hit that's really important, is you've got those decreased attacks, which is going to help your survivability in this game, which is an important piece if you're ever going to want to be able to defeat kind of brutal and above level of Hydra. Now we can go and cycle through to this, and we've got that taunt there because he's going to need another turn. He does get some boost ability, but because we didn't land that decreased speed, then we're going to need some assistance. That's where the assistance going to come in most importantly, is on those when we don't have that decreased speed from our Royal Guard, which of course we'll never hit never gonna hit it when we want it to. Again, great opportunity here. When all other things being equal, your lead target will get that bonus increased defense from Tagore, so that's a big deal. I don't know when I'm going to stop doing this. I mean, it's going to be a rinse repeat, right? Like you see the point. I'm pretty sure you understand. I will put them in a full key and we'll do some video on it. But now we're right back to it. We taunt him. We've got that thing. We also counterattack, which is nice. Now this guy now I'm free to do whatever I want. I'm free. In this case, that's who I'm going to hit, but I can hit whoever I want. We don't need to land that taunt. We don't have to worry about whether or not I'm going to use Husk's abilities there. It's just going to happen. When Husk is able to do his enemy max HP, that's what we're going to do, which is nice. Let's get that speed up. You see there's four buffs on him. He's doing really good. Let's get some decreased attacks. Of course, he only lands one decreased attack because he weak hit. We've got a poison buff up there, and of course just the mythical resistance level on a champion that he should have easily been able to hit on the Head of Mischief. But you know, Far be it from math to be on my side in these sort of deals, but at least the resistance side, the math is there. Again, we still don't have that decreased speed, so good. We got that provoke up. That's always a nice thing. We're going to get some heals here. Boom. All things being equal. Oh, it went to her. She must have a sliver of health missing. Usually, if all things are equal, it would go to the lead, but nonetheless. So this is the only thing is because we're not landing that decreased speed, we have to rely on Husk for that one turn. And what we'd like to do, and maybe you can even start your rotation to make sure you land it, is yeah, let's do it. Let's kill ourselves. Boom. That's always, this is the cheater's method of getting your guys back up here. You get them killed. I don't even remember. Oh, we're still one turn off. That's fine. Okay. Settle down. I was going to do this for about half an hour. Boom. We've got that taunt back up. It is also, by the way, a placement. You don't have to worry about it. So even if there was an affinity issue, he's still going to be able to land that provoke because it is not based on a hit. It is based on a placement, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing. We're going to be in a little bit of trouble with him, but that's fine. Again, we're not doing the whole key here. We're just trying to give you an idea of how to use this guy. We got 3 decreased attacks there. That's fine. Perfect timing to eat him. Oh, an extra turn. That was a beautiful timing on the extra turn as well. I think we're actually going to do the heal first. Boom. Hey, and he actually countered the... I think counterattack should ignore that misdirection. I think that would be a neat addition. Now, unfortunately, again, still no decreased speed on this son of a gun. And we didn't get it again. Apparently, the bad math only works in my disfavor, not my favor, as we can see. But that's okay. We wouldn't want it any other way. We wouldn't want things to be easy now, would we? There you go. Taunt back up. And rinse, repeat. This is just quite an easy cycle. Again, who cares about the poison cloud? He can still land taunt on the poison cloud, though we are in a little bit of a pinch here. Oh, look. And there's that 3% there. He even got to steal the buffs. That's fine. Thankfully, we have the backup of the block buffs, so or block buff steal, whatever you want to call it, to make that a little bit safer. We got some decreased attacks up. That's always especially nice on the head of Torment, who's going to be able to hit you pretty hard. I think we might get 2 turns through on this. Man, if we could have only landed one of those decreased speeds, but we will get an increased speed here that might be enough. I don't know. We'll find out here. I mean, we can't land it because of the weak hits. Oh, this is when we're going to get all the extra turns when it doesn't matter. Good. There we got Shamel back. No, not quite. So again, see how close we were. If we would have been able to land that decreased speed on him, it would have been a no-brainer. Unfortunately, we just weren't able to get around to it, which is frustrating as all heck. But I'm not going to keep going. You see the point here. This is the rotation he's going to be good for. He's going to be the head of mischief target, and he's going to be the head of decay taunt. And if you can get a decreased speed on that head of decay at a 300 speed on brutal, you can actually cycle through, so you'll never need a secondary. But I always recommend, if you have a Husk is so good, especially on this rotation, you might as well bring the Husk in, and that gives you a safety net in case you can't land that. So there you go. Now I'm going to kind of tone down his stats a bit. We're going to take him in a couple other areas and show you what it would be like if he were in a kind of a progression team to be able to help your team through other areas and just about everywhere dungeon, just about everywhere in the Doom Tower. So let's hit that next. I actually didn't change his stats because you don't need it, but here's a spider. This is spider 20, and sometimes you can't quite kill champions, so you can actually use this guy as a provoke, which is going to help you through a battle like this. Now, say you just have 2 cold hearts, or you have something like this where you can't get that weaken down. You got to be able to put something in the way, something that'll stop the enemy from attacking you. And this is a perfect example of it. He's going to have the weak hits here, so he's going to survive quite admirably. You have heals as well if you need them. And it's an absolutely simple way to be able to get through a stage like this. We not have all the pieces of the puzzle that you need to do an automatic Sparta 20. You see that turn meter reduction and boost, very important piece of this puzzle. We don't even need the heal yet, but we have that heal in reserve just in case. And look at that, we're right back around because of his speed. Now, you may not be able to get the speed, obviously, but then, you know, you can bring in any sort of shield champion, or you can bring in another healer. Just make sure you're not bringing any Force Affinity champions so that they decide they're going to start hitting other people. But you can see here, we're going to be able to slowly whittle this down and even put some decrease attacks up there to keep him alive. And also, this would be a good time. You can use lifesteal on this guy, and every time he's counterattacking, he's running the opportunity to heal himself, which is a big deal. And this is such a progression tool. This is exactly the sort of team, though not exactly the team. It's the sort of team that I used, or Amanda and I used on her account. That turn meter is such a undervalued thing in Spider, but this is where it actually is the biggest deal. Hopefully we can get around to Royal Guard's big hit here before the turn meter shows up. Look at that. We taunt him again. No big deal. You are taunted, Spider. Spider might actually get a turn here, which would be very unfortunate. Hit him back. Boom. Still, not... I mean, he's going to die unless he gets a heal. I should have saved that heal for another day. Oh, somehow he lived. And he's got that... Thank goodness for that leech, hey? All right, let's see how close we are. Boom, almost. Oh, my gosh. So now, this is not just for this encounter, obviously. It's for any encounter where you need to absorb damage. He's going to be there to absorb damage. He is an HP-based champion. You can put him in a shield set. You can put him in a bolster set. You can bring him through waves where he is taunting. If you happen to have a reset champion, all the better. He's going to help you get through anywhere that you need to absorb damage. This is just the best example because it also makes great use of his A1, but it's not the only place. Literally anywhere and everywhere he is going to be strong. You see, we were able to use this for champions, no turn meter reduction other than SKEURAMIS. And I imagine that if I used one Cold Heart, for example, it would have been an even easier one. Of course, I do have better gear than the average progression, but absolutely, trust me with this, SKEURAMIS is going to be absolutely amazing for any time you need to absorb damage, whether that's waves, whether that's, I mean, most bosses can't be taunted, so that's not going to work. The Hydra, obviously, we showed that great ability. So why don't we go to final thoughts on our good friend here, SKEURAMIS. My final thoughts on SKEURAMIS, man, I wish I would have had this guy on my account when I started playing this game. SKEURAMIS makes everything easier in progression. He can stop you from dying. That's his whole point. That's his whole purpose. He can stop you from dying. He's going to absorb the damage. He's an HP-based champion with nearly 20,000 HP as an epic. He's got a taunt on a 3-turn cooldown. He was able to take enemies. Now, this is not for speed runs. He slows things down because he puts on a self-counter attack. So every time he taunts, or sorry, provokes. Why did they have to call it taunt versus provoke? Every time he provokes and takes a hit, he's going to counterattack. But the flip side of that is, with some good lifesteal gear, he can actually keep himself healed up by doing that with a War Master proc just for safety. We don't have him in that because we want to take him into Hydra, which is where he can be used in the late game. This guy's a Hydra beast. We did not get a single decreased speed on the head of Decay, but that's kind of the hit. If you can get this guy on Brutal to 300 speed, and then you just land a decreased speed on the head of Decay, especially when you have Tagore and you can put that increased speed on yourselves, this guy's going to be able to have a constant uptime on that provoke. Or just bring in a Husk or any other champion, like a Seeker, any other champion that has a secondary provoke, and the two of them can trade off the provokes very easily. So there you go. There is SKEURAMIS. What are my thoughts on him? Don't change his kit at all. This guy's amazing. If you are new or progressing or an early mid-game player and you're struggling anywhere because your nukers are taking hits before they can take down the waves, then this is the guy you need. Put him on your team, build him out, give him a shield set, and watch him make your team better Those are my thoughts on SKEURAMIS. What are your thoughts on SKEURAMIS? Let me know in the comments down below. But most importantly, thank you for finally coming back to the I Built Them series. I appreciate you all, so please be kind, be safe, and we'll see you in the next video.